Okay, so we're going to be doing a tier list here based on the new I don't know if I can say that, I might have to mute that in the intro, but the new kid GT Goku with the Spirit Bomb, USB, whatever you want to call him. We're going to be looking at the top 10 units, and of course we're going to do the second one as well. So we got 2 tier lists in one video as we normally do. Hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this video, man. I don't need to do much talking, but you guys know this new unit is super good, and I'm sure you're interested in seeing where he's going to place on my top 10 list. Of course, before we get into the video, we got to shout out the boy DNGEE_YT, DNGEE_YT. He's the one that makes the tier list. So if you want to make your own tier list, all you have to do is go to his Twitter, give him a follow. He's actually surpassed 3,000 followers now, which is super neat. But on top of that, you can see here the DBL tier list template, which we're going to be using, is literally right here. So if you want to go ahead and make tier lists, definitely go ahead and press this link, give him a follow, and you know, you can keep it moving for yourself too. Right, so we have the tier list here, and you can see there's all the characters, but these characters in this section are pretty much the only characters that we're going to be mentioning for the top 10. So right now they're just an honorable mentions because I haven't put them up, but we're going to be going 1 to 10 as you'd expect. So I think what I'm going to do is bring up the top 3. I think I need to do a lot of explaining here, so I'm just going to drag them up one by one. So I'm going to put up Beast, I'm going to put up the boy UI, and I'm going to put up the boys Bardock and Goku. Now I feel like if your top 3 are not like this in any order, so it could be, you could have Baku number 1, you might have UI number 1, you might have Beast number 2, and then like that, whatever it is, I'm gonna have mine like this. So if it's not these 3, I think your top 3 or your tier list in entirety is immediately invalid. It's just invalid straight away. Now first, let me go into Beast. I feel like Beast is the most oppressive force in the game. A lot of the things Baku can do in terms of being a tanky unit, doing hella damage with blue cards, he literally does, but he also has the extra, and I think the specialty in this guy's kit is just too much to overlook. The type neutral, you know, is super good. Of course, removing your vanish is the biggest factor, which really allows you to get a free rising rush or vanish removal, it leading into a blue card. So overall, I think it's just easier to use. He's pushing people into corners a lot more, and he's used a lot more than, maybe not these 2, maybe I think he's top 3 used, top 2 used, if I'm not mistaken. He's just not used more than UI by BR70. Really and truly, I see Beast almost every single game, but there's games where I don't see UI, there's games where I don't see this guy ever. But I could say it the other way as well. I guess it's down to my experience. I'd say I see Beast more than these 2. That's just my experience. But really and truly, I feel Beast is the most oppressive force in the game when it comes to doing damage and trying to break him down. So for that reason, I've got him at number 1, but it's not even like there's a far gap. I would completely understand if you wanted to put UI number 1. But the reason I'm taking UI at number 2 and not Baku at number 1 or 2 is specifically because his whole character diverts the playstyle of the whole game. When you have UI on the field, you have to really think about, alright, cool, you can't attack him with strikes, because even if you land the first one, the second one, his gauge is going to reduce, so the combo breaks, you know. And not just that, close range blues and green cards, so it's really annoying to try and get past UI. His whole playstyle just stops people from being normal Dragon Ball Legends players, so people really have to be careful when fighting UI, and I think that's enough to have a number 2. It's not that he is really oppressive, but he really is. He's gonna hit you with, oh, you can't cover change the first time, and when he's last stand, he has 3 ultimates in total. It's not that he's not oppressive in himself, because he really is, but I think the biggest thing about him is the fact that he doesn't allow you to play as normal, because you have to consider his gauge in every single play that you do, and until you get used to it, he's really gonna do you over in such a bad way. But then number 3 here, we got Bardock and Goku. Bardock and Goku, they literally come neck and neck with these guys, whether it's Sun Family or specifically Saiyans. Bardock and Goku, they have 2 elements, so that's already a super big factor. They're able to tank a lot, and they're indestructible. I've always said, and I'm going to continue to say, it's not the indestructible that's super valuable, even though it is that extra step that you have to work past. You can't nullify it, so it's like a glorified endurance, but it's what comes with it. So this unit here, I believe he's able to lock you in, and he destroys 2 of your cards. I think even though that's not super major, it's still good enough to annoy you and stop you from playing the way you want to play. You have to consider that when taking it out. Obviously there is text, so for example, when Beast transforms, if you drop combos into a blue card, the indestructible here is not really going to save you, because he's still going to hit you, and especially if you don't have the blue. Even if you do have the blue, you're still going to get blue carded, so it's going to be tough. They also do have an AoE green card, which is also super effective. The explosive green is just super cheesy. I'm not gonna lie, I think that's the biggest carry of their kit. You might think it might be the 2 elements, but the explosive green is so damn lame. Every time I see an explosive green, I'm like, oh damn, I just got hit with that. So out of all of those things there, in terms of value, I just have to put Beast first. Personally, I got UI second, and then Bardock and Goku third. Now we gotta get to the 4 to 10, which is where things are gonna shake up a bit. Now I'm gonna drag up 4 units, and then I'm gonna give my opinion on why I think things are gonna be in a specific order. So I'm gonna drag up Pikkon Gogeta. I'm gonna drag up the new Kid Goku Bomku. I'm gonna drag up Ultra Vegito Blue, and I'm gonna drag up G4 as well. I forgot about Evoken as well, my fault. But I'll talk about them in a second. Now, these 4 here, I'd say they're just super consistent in what they do for either of their teams. This guy here, he's in a very tricky position because people can't really see his value yet because he is main for GT, but he can be used on Saiyan and Son family, which people are not highlighting. They're really tunnel visioned on the fact that he's specifically used for GT. But the variety of teams that he can fit on is also something you shouldn't disregard. In the same way that you can use Pikkon Gogeta on movies, fusions, and Saiyans. G4, GT, Saiyans, and fusions. So like there's a lot of variety here. VB you might not use on Saiyans, you probably just keep him on fusions and future, but future's kind of washed. And obviously Evoken, they're a unit which comprise, like their main focus is long combos, but I feel here PvP, the way it's set up, if you aren't delaying time accounts, so if you're not holding up plays, lots of games are going to time accounts nowadays. If they're not going below 100, then you're building your team wrong, because a lot of these teams are built to tank, but they can also do damage. Long combos, if they're not doing damage, you're gonna lose on damage in the end. Evoken, they can do crazy damage. Do not sleep on them. UVB can do crazy damage and combos as well. G4, I think out of all of these guys, maybe these two, if we're looking at combo potential, these two have the lowest. But then in terms of tanking, it's a whole different argument. So it really depends on what you want to value. But if I'm gonna look at all of these units and think, who's the most valuable right now, right? I think it gets super interesting. But if I'm gonna take my experiences from ranked PvP, also who I struggle against the most, and with a bit of investing in the stocks of a certain unit, I'm gonna value the most these two. It might be an early take, but I think these two fit the meta the most and actually are able to contribute the most at this moment in time. Now, people might want to downplay this Goku here, but he is such a protector himself. It doesn't matter that he doesn't have like a purple to protect him from greens. He himself is that protector. Even if you get through his first life very fast, there's still a lot of tanking that he does, and he's healing a lot. Let's also point out the fact that after his endurance pops out, he literally type neutral defense again in the defensive sense permanently, right? That's also good. But then just to put the icing on the cake, he's able to take your vanish if you're in like a 1v1 setting or a 3v1 setting against him, against the enemy, sorry. Like in last stand, he's gonna take your vanish, lock you in if it's like 2 more. So overall, he has some solid feats on his own, and these greens are not threatening to him. Also, another argument that I want to bring up is that a lot of people want to play the element role, right, and say this Goku can't be top 4, top 5 simply because he's blue and there's so many greens, right? Well, let's look at this guy here, Ultra Vegito Blue. I'm sure you guys remember there was a period where there was so many blues, right? Like 10 blues, Zamasu, 17, Janemba, Super Saiyan Goku. There's a lot more, but my head's not there right now. People still using Blue Beast. I'm just mentioning a lot, but this guy's still being used consistently. So for that reason, I feel like element arguments are not strong enough to really just take this guy out. Now, with all of that being said, I'm not putting the Goku at 4, but I'm putting him at 5. Pikkon is just a more consistent Saiyan at the moment. I feel like it's still an early invest in this Kid Goku, and even putting him at number 5 is really gassing him up, I'm not going to lie. We don't have enough scenery for him, and there's another Legend Limited coming out for GT, which is really going to solidify his place in the top 5. But I'm personally investing in him, and I think he's a super solid option for all the reasons I already listed. But Pikkon and Gogeta, with the way greens are super dominant and Saiyans are just super relevant right now, with the green, blue, or green, whatever color, even with UI on the team, it just works too smooth to really just put this guy above Pikkon and Gogeta, in my opinion. Let's also point out the fact that Pikkon and Gogeta is used on Fusion Warriors, which is also another good team, and he's also used on Saiyans and movies, 3 very popular teams. So he's just a consistent unit that you'd have. The revival unit is super solid, and he is super tanky in general, and I think overall people are just accustomed to using him, on top of the fact that he's reliable. So it's better to just go with what you know best than to take a risk with just the endurance, especially because this unit has that line there that's specifically for GT anyways. So I think the top 5 is pretty solid, but then going down from here is going to get a little political. A lot of people might already be sad that I've taken out Evoken. Wild, right? G4 and UVB, Fusion Warriors. we're gonna be fighting here. And I don't really want to downplay Evoken because I feel like Evoken can still do what Evoken does. PvP seems to be heading in a strike direction. Evoken is on a blast team, and I feel like the only team I see him on now is the team with 17 and Jiren, and that's not even the best team in the game anymore. So it's very sticky when it comes to using Evoken. I don't think it's ridiculous to have them at 6 or 5 because a lot of people that still use Evoken, they're gonna see the exact same results. But in overall meta value, I don't think I should value them as much as they're needed to. So I don't know if I want to take the risk and keep them at 6 for just safety or really just drop them a bit lower. But I think it would be fine to drop them a bit lower. Even on his team, he's not the most valuable unit. Really and truly, 17 stonks is carrying that team. This unit has long combos, but the team's going to get eviscerated if it wasn't for 17. So we've got to think about that as well. It's quite interesting how the meta can shift so fast with just a couple units releasing. Anyways, I'm doing a lot of rambling. I need to decide where I'm going to place people. So I've made my decision. I'm thinking I'm going to put G4 at 6. Gonna have UVB at 7. I'm gonna have Evoken at 8. 17 at 9. And I need a last contender for 10, which I'll talk about in a bit. Now, this order here scares me a bit, but I'm gonna explain why I've picked these lot. G4, he fits on Fusion Warriors and Saiyans. He's being used consistently. It just makes the most sense. So more so because of teams and with the uprise of GT, I think G4 is just a way safer option than UVB. People might think UVB is a better offensive option. For sure, he might be. But G4 is super tanky and that's how PvP is built right now. But with UVB's existence, he's only being used on Fusion Warriors, and I feel like the lack of variety brings him down one. That's it. If this guy could had a Saiyan Z ability, right? If he had a straight Saiyan Z ability, I might straight up drag him up like that. But he just isn't a unit that's used alongside with the Saiyans. He just doesn't. It's not that he can't, but it's not ideal. People are not putting him on that team. So for team options, GT, Saiyans, this guy is one up, and Element. Let's not disregard Elements. Green is so clear right now. Who would have thought Green would be so clear? But for the same box, these two are partners, and Pycon and Gojian up there. Green, green, red. It just makes so much sense to put G4 above. So UVB mixing with them, it just makes sense. It just makes sense. Now let's talk about universe rep stonks decreasing in a month after they've had their whole year run. We've got Evoken and 17. Some people might think 17 is more valuable on Evoken on universe rep, and I actually agree with that. But the thing is, if you don't have Evoken on universe rep, they don't cook. 17, he will hold up the team and he's the reason they're able to survive. But Evoken, he's the one doing the damage. He's the one bringing the offensive power. The analogy I'm going to give you is, you can have the best defensive team in football/soccer for you Americans, weirdos. You can have the best defensive team, but if you still don't score a goal at maximum, you're going to draw. So you need the offensive power, which is why I value Evoken over 17, even though 17 carries the team. I think what you want to do is score, and naturally Evoken is doing the damage. So we're going to put him at 8 and then 17 at 9. Now we got to think about the 10th spot. And the 10th spot is tough, man. We got some contenders. Let's bring some people up. We got the ghost of regen, Super Janemba. Super Janemba movie's still about, so let's not count him out just yet. We got Orange Piccolo, Platinum King. Would never be talked about if he didn't get one, but people don't want to remember it, but he has one. We got Orange Piccolo right there. I've been using Rev Sign, but I'm not dragging them up. So I really think it's just between these two. It's really just these two. It's really just these two. And I'll be real, I will be so real with you. Green is so much more valuable. Janemba is getting kicked out of my top 10. Janemba is getting kicked out. It's actually sad. Orange Piccolo, he is used consistently on movies. I'm not even gonna lie to you. He's a super tanky unit. The revival layer, it's extra protection. His gauge might not be that great, but it still stops you. He's working. He's really working. But I think what I'll do, instead of argue for Piccolo's sake, I'll give you the reasons by process of elimination. I think that's what it's called. So Janemba, blue, really hurt his value. He's weak defensively against all the greens. Offensively, he's good, but his gauge, I've always been saying this, overrated. It's a one-time use for the most cases because he doesn't get the ultimate if his gauge even refills. Jiren, he's a victim to UI. It's unfortunate, but he is. He just is. and that is enough to take him all the way out. He's also only alive because Universe Rep has value. He's not bad by any means, right? But he's not in a protective position in terms of like other characters are not as protected. So for example, this GT Goku, but he's able to hold his own. I feel like Jiren is a bigger victim, naturally. Pan, just not enough value, I'm not going to lie to you. She doesn't stand out more than any of these units to me. She's not doing anything super special. Go Frieza, it's just a sad time for them. Just keep them in honorable mentions. I don't need to go into that. Ape is actually super good. Ape is super good. But the thing is, I'm not moving it up strictly. Even if he's better than Piccolo, right? I think he's used less and he's not a safer option. Those two things are enough for me to not include him in the top 10. He can do good damage. He's gonna hold up because of endurance as well. He has an ultimate arts, it's super good. But I think he's not a safer option just off rip. His element being red as well. Let's really think about this. You have a team, and whatever team you want to use are using Vegeta as a red on your team over VB or Beast. Let's take it easy, man. Cell, well, I'm not even going to talk about him. Rev Sign could have made the list. I'm not going to lie to you. Could have made the list, but I think he is too glass. He can do crazy blue card damage, crazy blast arts damage, but that's about it. And Universe Rep stocks are going down by the minute. Forku, it's really just a biased invest if you put them in the top 10. Tag 4's G4's already there, but if you wanted to, it's really just a biased invest in my point of view. UI, Universe Rep stocks going down. And Pan, even though she is good, there's just better options, but she is used a lot with like red something or whatever you want to use. With Beast, her father, she works perfectly, but that's about it. So yeah, this is my top 10 list. We got Beast at number 1, we got UI at number 2, we got Goku Bardock number 3, we got Python Goji at number 4, we got the GT Kid Goku number 5, Bombku, we got G4 number 6, UVB number 7, Evil Ken number 8, 17 9, and Orange Piccolo at 10. I'm proud of this list, I'm not going to lie. I took some risks and I hope I prosper, but of course, let me know your opinion in the comment section below. Alright, so cool, we got the more detailed tier list segment of the video. We got all these specific tiers. Please read the tiers, and before I even go further, Ultra Instinct Goku, read the tier. We'll get to it though. So at the top we got the God tier. These are the units that carry teams. If you're not using one of these 4 units outside of UI would be right here. He would be right here with these guys, but the only reason he's not there is because he has Ultra Instinct, which is a separate tier due to playstyle. So these units all carry teams. We got movies here, we got Hybrid Saiyans here, and even on Sun Family he's kind of carrying that team. UVB is carrying Fusion Warriors, he can carry Future as well. No matter what team he's on, in fact he can be the 3v1 monster, and I think that's the main thing we want to point out. They all have consistent Vanish recovery and they both have a lot of strike in an insane way. Blast armor specifically is what I'm talking about when I mentioned the strikes, so that's important to point out. Then if we go into the third slot, we got Bardock and Goku. They have the indestructible explosive green, 2 elements to keep them alive extra long, so that's also super valuable. Then we got Evil Ken with the longest combos in the game, which is super valuable, so they can also do 3v1 things, which is super good. Cover note all the way through with all of these too. So that's the God tier section. They all carry the game, that's why they're super great and that's why they're at the top. Now what usually happens is the support and disruptors are usually paired directly with the God tier members. So we got this Goku here fitting with the Son family and Saiyan guys. He's also being used on GT, but we got no GT guys currently in God tier, but he's currently the best disruptor, and you might want to have Pycon over them. I'd actually have Pycon over them, so I'm going to keep it like that now that I actually processed it. So we got Pycon at the top of support and disrupt because of the revival layer. We got the Kid Goku doing things 17. All of these guys are usually going to be paired with one of these guys. So we got Pycon Gogeta, Beast, Baku, Evil Ken can be put together. Even UVB, the whole 4 actually, Pycon and Gogeta can be used with all 4. We got the Kid Goku being used with the Son family 3 in the God tier, 17 with Evil Ken. We've got Pan with pretty much every unit here, so on and so forth. You will find at least one correlation in the most part going forward, besides from maybe Cell, but down here it gets kind of wishy-washy. Cool, we got the Attack Z. It's pretty much the God tiers that couldn't make it, so these are the next level of attackers down. Not to say that these units can't carry teams, but they're not at the top of the game right now, which is why they're in the Z tier of attack. That's the only difference, so there's not much to go into. Next we got the Ultra Instinct tier. It's pretty much a skill debate. Somebody with UI, they could either be the worst player in the world or the best player in the world, and UI Goku is not going to be able to carry you just because because he has Ultra Instinct, it requires you to use some brain power when using these units. You could also use 3 of these units together, and I promise you, if you don't get hit because you're that skilled, you will win that game, even if it goes to time accounts. And that's what's amazing about the Ultra Instinct units, which is why they have their own tier. But outside of that, UI would easily hit with God tier just because of that. But he has Ultra Instinct, so I have to keep him categorically sectioned. Cool. Next out below, we got the bench tier. It's pretty much just units that you could use. This is good for new players. If you're a new player, this is surely very useful for you, so you can look at what units would help you out when you're building your team with these top units. Then we've also got just the next layer of support and attack at the bottom in accordance to what we have up here. Unfortunately, Beast couldn't make it in the attack Z. We would have loved to, but every role can only have 12 units, so he's made it down to the S tier, which is unfortunate. But I think for the most part, this is a quite accurate representation of what PvP is looking like. Better accurate representation even for the guys that don't have just the top units. Some people be using these bottom units and still be able to bring good results, which is what's important to know. Okay, that's going to be the end of the video, man. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, man. Let me guys think about the tier list, the first one and the second one, because both tier lists run on different operations. But of course, again, appreciate you guys for watching the video, man. Press the subscribe button. We're on this grind to 100,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching, man. My name is Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.